Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today at Thrive O'Clock. My name is Melody McAllister. I'm coming in live from Anchorage, and I have two amazing people. Obviously, Rachelle and I, when we go live, and we have an amazing guest. Rachelle, can you tell us about our awesome guest?
I can, yes. So happy that it's Friday and super excited to have my good friend here, Dr. Will, who I always enjoy talking to, connecting with, have gotten to know over the last couple of years, and have been inspired by the work that he does. And like I said, I'm very thankful to have Dr. Will here to join us for our Friday Thrive O'Clock. So for anybody who is not familiar with the work that you do and how you occupy your time, Dr. Will, could you let everybody know who you are and introduce yourself?
Thank you for inviting me. I guess by day, I'm an instructional technologist with a K through 12 school district, working with teachers to use technology to reimagine the learning experience of their students. I am also a podcaster. I've been doing it for 6 years, host creator of the Dr. Will Show podcast. And last year in March, I released my first documentary via EduMatch, The Edupreneur. And I've done some freelance writing for EdTech publications. And, I dabble in the consulting space, going to schools, delivering trainings.
That's so cool. And I've told you a couple of times, Dr. Will, that your podcast is the first podcast that I ever started listening to when I joined Twitter. And that's how I got connected to some other amazing people too, besides yourself. And so if you want to listen to Dr. Will's podcast, I have it right there on his name, the Dr. Will Show podcast.simplecast.fm. It is a great show to listen to. You are always showcasing other people. And I was going to ask you who your favorite person is, but I don't want to get you in trouble. So, but who have you had on lately? Who's been some of your guests that you featured lately?
I've had on Demi Stratman. That was an awesome conversation. Sherry St. Clair has been on. Sarah Fontenot, she was actually the guest for episode 400.
Oh, wow.
And, I've had, just so many people like Rachelle, got to get you on. I just enjoy having conversations with, people who are really doing something, and I'm always about educators creating multiple streams of income and monetizing their talents and sort of looking at what they're doing as a teacher, as looking at it like spreading those gems, that love, that mission to a greater audience. So not just saying, hey, because, some of our colleagues, as you know, they don't quite get it and they push back and they think that they're betraying their profession when they charge. And I'm saying don't abandon your call for an educator. Don't abandon your reasons for doing it. Look at it as an opportunity to, again, expand your reach, to teach to a larger audience, and at the same time, get some coin. So that's sort of, my mission of why I do what I do with my podcast.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the message you have, like respect yourself, respect yourself enough to know that your time is valuable and it is worth something. I've learned a lot from you. So that is so cool. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Rachelle, I always cut you off.
It's okay. I was too busy getting the bug that's flying around here. I was keeping busy. Not that everybody needed to know that, but I remember a couple of years ago when I was first, Dr. Will invited me to be a guest on his podcast. And I remember, I don't even know if I said this to him at the time or what, but I was thinking, what could I possibly even talk about? I wasn't really doing anything that much. I was just teaching. And I mean, not that teaching is not a lot, but I remember thinking to myself after we had the conversation that he listens and he hears you and he's listening to what you're saying and he's curious about it. And I remember because I've been on his podcast twice, he just says like, and he thinks about it. But he's so invested in knowing, like, what is your story? Why do you do what you do? And then beyond that, just listening for himself, just sharing everybody else's. And so I have been fortunate, like I said, to know him for a couple of years. And I bring it up all the time when 2 years ago, I think it was at EST 2018 in Chicago, we had a couple, passing. I mean, with all the people there, we passed each other a few different times. There was, I think, in the center, there were a lot of people doing like podcasts. But then later that night, we had time to actually sit down and have dinner together and have a conversation. And I remember telling him, like, you should write a book about podcasting. And I think the tables were kind of turned, because I think he said at the time, initially, before I said podcasting, that he didn't know what he would write about. And I said, well, you should do the podcasting. And then not all that much time after that, he had The Edupreneur come out, which is, if you haven't seen it yet, the film, the documentary, it is fantastic. I remember watching just even the trailer for it, but then having the opportunity to go back through it and just listen to the stories of the people that he interviewed in it. And I know I would forget somebody if I went through the list. So I don't technically want to do that, but I think there were 8. Mm-hmm. Am I right, Dr. Will? Okay. So I was trying to go through if I knew the whole list, but I mean, for a lot of us, we see educators and we see people doing different things, whether they're speaking at conferences or keynoting or writing and all of that. And we don't always know the story behind it. And so that's what I take away from my experience with being a guest on his podcast and just doing my own blogging and interacting with other teachers and people. Like, it's so important to tell our story so we understand like what people are going through and what their challenges have been, and share, our own experiences, because that's how we truly do grow and improve in our practice professionally, but also just as people. So I'm sorry, that was a lot. I'm going to take a break now.
That's great. Tell us a little bit. And for those people who are watching, thank you so much for joining us today at Thrive O'Clock. And feel free to drop some questions that you have for Dr. Will while we have him on live right now. But Dr. Will, will you tell us, like, what was your inspiration, like, or what was going on when you were making the documentary Edupreneur, and are you coming up with another one?
Yes. Well, the Edupreneur 2 is actually being edited right now.
Awesome.
Jeff Bradbury is doing that. So we're going. He has about 44 minutes of footage completed, and we're talking it out to try to create the narrative from it. It literally came about because I interviewed Dr. Sarah on her experiences as an entrepreneur, and I was like, I would love to write a book for you, but I don't have a book in me. And she was, no, I just cannot write like that. And she said, well, why don't you do a documentary? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So, well, you're already doing these interviews. Mm-hmm. You can do interviews and craft a narrative behind that. And I said, oh, yes, let me have the contract. Let's get this moving. So yeah, but she sent me a proposal. And even at first, my mind was like, let's do something, technology related, because that's my job. And I was like, man, I'd be bored out of my mind doing that. I enjoy my job, but I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I said, you know what? We got to tell the story of the Edupreneur. And she accepted the proposal. And I came out with my sort of list of sort of who's who, like who would I want to have. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was shocked that some of the names, because I didn't know these people wanted to tell their stories about how they're making their money. Now, I've never asked anyone about their check, but the fact that these people that you see on the stage, you see their books, you see at conferences, that they would actually talk about personal experiences, that was like, wow. And they said yes. And there was some really personal stuff that just never made the documentary that I was like, oh my goodness. But I knew it was going to be special when my first interview was Angela Myers. And she told me, I just had back surgery, and that made it into a documentary, but I just had back surgery. Doctor said I'm down for 6 weeks. She said, that's money that I'm not going to get back. Right. So now I got to go hustle and make that up. When she went that personal, I said, ooh, this thing gonna be good. And person after person, they kept coming in, sharing stuff. It wasn't, if you haven't seen it, people, it wasn't surface level type conversation. So these people really shared their experiences, and I was like, yo, this was cool. So I had a great time making it. So that was sort of the inspiration of it, was to hear from people who are doing it and who are successful at bringing in the coin. And,
nice.
Because it's one thing to talk about something, but if you're not successful at it, can't learn from that.
Right.
So
right.
I wanted to bring in those voices that we see and let you kind of see. Because look, Eric wears a hoodie. And when you normally see Eric has a suit. So he has a hoodie in the documentary. So it was just like real cool to do it. So I had a great experience. And once I saw people, Rachelle did a dope review article about it. And I would see people tweet me screenshots. Like, I bought it, I'm looking at it. I was like, and then when I watched it on Vimeo myself on the big TV at home, I was like, wow, I did this. We made it. Because when you're involved in it, I guess even like when you're writing a book, when you're going back and forth with that editor, at some point in time, you just want this thing out of your life. You're like, I'm tired of it.
Yes.
That's why I don't write, because I did my dissertation. I was like, I'm done. I'm just over 2 pages. You can count me out. That's how I feel right now. And so I had some time to step back from it, and then to see it, I was like, oh, okay, I like this. So it was very special to me to do something that I never thought that I would even be able to do. Most people, I don't know if you know this, people, but I went to film school, so I actually have a degree in film. And I never thought that I would even make a movie since I got into education. So to be able to again do that, I was like, yo, I've done what I set out to do when I left high school. So
I love that. I didn't know that. That
Yeah.
is so cool. And tell us, and you just presented at the Edupreneur Success Summit, and I signed up. I need to go back and watch everything because I couldn't do it while it was live. But how was that? Tell us about your panel and everything that you were part of involved in this.
Well, Erica Terry started it. She is an educator, educational consultant, where she works with school districts, and also she teaches other educators how to become entrepreneurs. And the summit had all kind of voices. Dr. Sarah participated in it, and it was just about different people sharing sort of their stories, their gems, their tips on whether it was how do you create content, how do you create your EDU brand, Jeff Bradbury, Yvette Duncan, her thing with the keys, y'all need to find Yvette Duncan. So I talked about podcasting and, how do you create a podcast to elevate sort of who you are, and to create the content that when people start to Google you, you are creating the narrative that comes up. And how do you use that again to help you with your business? And so I talked about that and how to, how the whole podcasting process works out. And then I participated in the panel it was basically essentially a sort of a content / podcast panel. And Trina DeVary was in there, and Dr. Michelle Schmidt, and some other people. I'm sorry, I remember names. People, I'm sorry. But it was all about people who have other podcasts, and we sort of talked about our experiences and how do you start a podcast, etc.
Wow. Awesome. And for anybody who's watching, I am dropping your podcast in the comments so people can join yours. But wow. Yeah, Rachelle, I know I'm about to start speaking, but I always cut you off. So do you want to go first?
No, I finished before Dr. Will, and I'm still catching my breath from that. No, okay.
Well, I think that's amazing. I literally can't wait to go check out your panel. And this weekend, I want to watch your Edupreneur. Like I keep putting it on the back burner because I have 5 kids, so it's a little bit hard for me sometimes to just be still and to do stuff. But I thought, if I can watch the whole season of Stranger Things, I can sure invest in something that is going to teach me quite a bit. But so I'm so excited for you. Congratulations on the Edupreneur. Congratulations on the Success Summit. And I can't wait to check that out too. Everything you're saying is amazing. But what I really, really love is just the message that you put out there. It's been consistent since I have found you. It's just that respect yourself. Like your time is valuable. We work in a system that does not necessarily value our time. For almost all of us across the board in this country, we do not get paid nearly what we're worth. We don't do it for the pay, but when we create all this extra stuff and people are depending on us, it's nothing to be ashamed for, to say my time is worth something. I could be doing 10,000 other things, but if you want me and my talents, then you say coin, but charging for that is very respectable. And it just says you respect yourself and your time too. But something that others may not know, because you are associated with the Edupreneur so much, is that you have become an advocate for remote learning. And so I'm just kind of interested on how did this come around? Why are you or what is the background? How did you become such an advocate for remote learning?
I've always believed in it. I mean, I got my doctorate from Capella. Online learning brought something new to my personal life, just being able to, being in a cohort with people from, New Orleans and Philadelphia and California, people who were deans and administrators and school superintendents. And we're having these discussions and talking about these ideas. And I'm just loving it. I'm sopping it up, man. Like from the South, got a little biscuit, you sop it with the syrup, I'm enjoying it, because in a face-to-face situation, I'm not saying you can't have great discussions, but you're limited by whomever's in the room. And when you're online, you're able to bring in all those voices, just like when we're on Twitter and you're able to just learn from so many people. That just set me on fire. And once I got my job with the district, my thing has always been about, how can you leverage that technology to do something beyond what you think is possible. A lot of teachers get in that classroom, and I've told teachers in my whole district that your kids don't need you to talk, right? They don't need you to tell them that 5 + 5 is 10. They can Google that. Now, if you tell them that with that 10, you can start a business, or with that 10, you can mix these ingredients to make a cake, or with this 10 you can do these angles to build a bookshelf or whatever, that's different. Your job, in my opinion, is not about facts and figures. Now again, it's different. You're talking about pre-K to a certain whatever. I mean, they have to have a certain amount of direct knowledge from you, but at some point you have to, as a teacher, I think direct instruction is to sort of set them up for them to walk away and do the work themselves so they can fly. And it's about how do you facilitate conversations and create learning experiences in which students take ownership and take agency and go beyond that worksheet, go beyond just regurgitating this happened in 1942. And so when we're able to do that and online, when kids can learn whenever they want to, right? And you can set them free. I hate when people make it seem like face-to-face is everything. We all know kids who show up every day face-to-face and they still fail. So you can't tell me that face-to-face is the gold standard. I'm just all in for anything that works for kids. So if a kid can do better in a face-to-face environment, that kid should be in a face-to-face environment. But I'm just one of those people to where I try to impress upon teachers, we are teaching a different generation of students who think differently. Their brains are wired differently. They have access to different things. They don't know what it is to call Blockbuster at 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday and say, hey, Dave, hey, put that on hold for me now, okay? Put it on hold for me. Put it on hold for me. Because they have everything on demand, right?
They're like, what's Blockbuster?
Yeah, they don't have that. Everything is on demand. Everything is streaming. And it's to the point to where they can start watching something on a tablet, pick it back up on a TV in the living room. And if they say, oh, I forgot about it, they can be somewhere on their phone and pick it up. And so the fact that this information is out there, the devices and everything is on demand, and kids can take a phone and create anything. Like, Steve Lacy, he creates hits for Kendrick Lamar on an iPhone, right? So this is the world we live in. We don't live in the pencil and paper that's very stagnant, that is not dynamic, that doesn't change. We live in a world that information is always changing. And if the pandemic hadn't taught us anything, it is that how real this digital world is. And for those individuals or companies that were not able to adapt, look where they are now, as opposed to those who were able to keep it moving. And so that's one of the reasons I'm just all in on the remote learning, the online learning, because it's just on demand. It's always there. When I tell teachers, look, go ahead and create those direct instruction videos. And sometimes I said, but you know what? You know what you're doing? You're multiplying yourself, right? How many times have you given a lecture? Everybody good? Y'all got it? We got it. Give a test. They don't have it. But if you were to possibly give that lesson via Nearpod, you can put in your informative assessments. Right away if they got it and where do I need to pivot. Or by recording these direct instruction videos, your kid gets to get you whenever they need it. So if they need to watch that video 20 times, they get to watch it 20 times. Because we know in a live classroom setting, you can't keep repeating yourself like that, because you got a pacing guide you got to get through. And so for me, it's just about, let's keep this thing moving. The classroom is bigger than our four walls, and we cannot confine learning to that.
Yeah, that's so many good points.
Yeah, and I love, and I want to know your thoughts too. Like, so let's say that this pandemic eventually calms down, like we all hope it will. We're praying that it will, and that it's not something that we have to battle every single day. And that's, I don't want to downplay the pandemic because it's awful. So, but let's say that life looks a little bit more easy. We're not faced with this problem every single day. Do you think that remote learning is going to be an option that other people will still want to have?
Yes.
Yes. I love that. Yes. Go ahead. No, go.
Because even in my own district, we had parents who chose the virtual option, just like across the country. Other parents, when the district said, hey, would you want to do this? They chose it. I mean, people will thrive in many different environments. Mm-hmm. So I think people will continue to choose an online version, an online option, if made available to them, because, some students, again, need to be able to take that thing at their own pace, where they may need a little more time to go through the material and sit with it and chew on it a bit, and to be able to send messages to their students, and maybe, quote unquote, have virtual office hours to sort of, hey, I have these questions. Some students, we know, boom, they got it. They keep it moving. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times in a face-to-face, those kids get stuck. Mm-hmm. Because they can't move on. But you get them in an online environment where that kid can just move as fast as they need to or they can. To me, that's a win-win. So for me, when it comes to the remote learning, distance learning, whatever you want to call it, technology, for me, it's all about putting students in the best positions in which they can be successful. And even for teachers, I like to tell teachers that I work with at the school, let the computer do what it does best, and you do what you do best. Don't try to be everything, because you can't.
Right.
And so when you're trying to go, well, why do I want to do this? Okay. And I've had teachers fight until they gave that first 9 weeks test. And then they came back to me and they said, thank you, my friend. Thank you. You saved me so much time. You're welcome, sir. So that's my thing. Like, when something can be done better, do it better. When it can free you to actually do that type of work where you can actually sit down and engage kids and answer their questions and dive deeper, why wouldn't you want to do that as opposed to, here's a packet? Right.
When you're talking about this, like I can already see like teacher colleges, I don't know, maybe they already do this. This wasn't, 20 years ago when I was in college, this wasn't happening, but like courses to, I remember taking a course how to draw on a dry erase board, and I had to draw in a straight line. Okay. But now I'm thinking like there could be courses designed to teach remotely. So our new teachers coming up, this wouldn't be so weird for them, because for us, it is weird. And then I feel terrible for all the teachers who have to literally teach remotely and teach face-to-face at the same time. I can't even imagine how exhausting that is in that hybrid situation. It just doesn't seem like that is good for anybody. What do you think?
It can be done with the right tech.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now. Okay, let me break it down for you.
Break it down.
Because I did it. I started working with teachers today on this. So
okay.
we have Promethean panels now with the district. So what the teacher will do is start the Google Hangout or Zoom or whatever you want to do. They will start that from their laptop. On the Promethean panel, they join that video conference and then they share their screen. Now, this Promethean panel has all of the whiteboard stuff, the graphing paper and the pens and all of that stuff that you go, okay, this would be great to do. But on top of that, the fact that you can pull up your Schoology and you can teach from there. You can pull up your Google Classroom. You can teach from there. If you say, bam, let me pull up this video, this website. Let me pull up this PDF. Boom, you click this thing right here where you can annotate. Now you're annotating over all of that. And I guess who's seeing this at the same time? The kids who are in your class and the kids who are at home. They're getting the same instruction at the same time.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, that sounds great to me, but I haven't had to do that yet. So I would love to hear from anybody who has.
Yeah, I know.
Drop your comments, drop your questions.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds amazing. And I just feel like, if we had been better, like, this is something that we could have never been prepared for anyway. But obviously moving closer to technology and getting, into that more, what you're saying sounds very reasonable. It's just, I don't think we're there yet, like as a whole. Well, there's a lot of people who are, but there's still a lot of people who last February were still like, hey, I barely check my email. Technology, what? What's that?
Yep.
But those days are over, We've got to do better.
Did you really have a class about the dry erase board?
I did. And I got to tell you something. I didn't.
I hope you got an A.
I didn't.
That was a class?
It was part of a class. It was part of an assessment. We had to practice drawing in a straight line. The things that I scored the lowest on, I actually conquered the straight line, but I didn't write large enough. So I was told that only people in the front row would be able to see my writing, which I thought was good feedback. And I was also told during my sample lesson that I talked way too quickly, like I needed to slow down. So
I hear that too, even still. I mean, but sometimes when nerves can do that. But if you're excited about something that you're talking about, then your rate of speech goes faster. But when you said that about the dry erase board, I remember from my undergrad prep for education, just it wasn't like it is today. I mean, we didn't have all of the same tech and so forth. But one thing that I distinctly remember from my experience was being told that when you erase the board, you go this way. You don't go side to side because it makes your whole entire body shake. That is the legit Dr. Will's face. That was what the feedback was from the instructor told our whole class, is whenever you're doing, and if you're using chalkboards versus whatever, just, I don't know. But I've never forgotten that, because if you think about, I mean, your body, if you're doing it vertically versus horizontally, I don't know. I mean, your whole body's kind of shaking all over the place.
It's true. I had a group of fifth graders, and I had a sleeveless shirt on, and this was when I was younger, and I was not as heavy as this. And I was erasing like this or drawing. No, I was drawing, and I was shaking, and they were cracking up behind me, and I would turn around, and they would stop, and I'm like, what's going on? So it's true. Dr. Will, do you remember anything funny that you learned in college for teaching?
Y'all some funny people.
I have another one. I'll tell you in a little bit.
Okay, no, tell us now. I want to laugh.
It's so one of the instructional, I forget what it was called, but it was basically where you were supposed to learn how to teach and how to be a teacher. Well, we went into class, and there wasn't a book. I mean, the other classes had books. This class did not have a book because apparently it was forgotten in the ordering process. So for the class, which was an evening course, which I thought was really cool because I could take a class at night once a week, the end result was, okay, everybody just find a book and you're just going to do a book report. And there wasn't a sign up. It was, we'll come in, okay, who wants to give a book report or who wants to report on what you're reading? And that was it. And then there was a final exam that I don't even remember what it was on, but throughout the semester, I think if there were 15 weeks, barely anybody ever showed up. I think I did my 2 book reports and that was it. And that was the actual, I mean, like teaching methods course. And so it was, I mean, it's funny now thinking back, like, and back then thinking, wow, this is the easiest class ever. But whenever you're going to a classroom and you don't have a clue, you go to your first interview like I did, and they're asking you questions about, I don't know, psychology and just different instructional methods and things. And I was at a complete loss for any of that because the book that I picked didn't have any of that in it.
That is horrible. And you paid money for that.
Yeah, but I knew how to erase the board. And I could write straight. So I had that going for me at that point.
I could write straight.
I could write straight.
I can't write straight to this day, y'all. And I have terrible penmanship. And here's the thing. I'm sorry if you can hear my kids screaming. So I'm about to turn. Okay, good. Y'all, I'm about to turn 40. So a lot of my education is kind of a mixture of like the chalkboard days with the dry erase board. You know, it was right before technology. Like the internet was something big. I remember being in a ton of chat rooms when I was in college, totally addicted to chat rooms. I'm not that person anymore, so I don't mind admitting to it, okay? I love people. I love getting outside of my walls. Anyway, whenever we were evaluated on technology, I was like, I don't know, like I was still in the days where we had projectors, like the ones where you hit the light on and it went up. I'm not talking about like projectors on a screen that you from your computer. Like those were the early years of my teaching. We still had VCRs with the push TVs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they would evaluate us on our technology use. And I'm just thinking, what are you talking about technology? This is crazy.
I want to know who the Facebook user is.
Yeah.
It's so funny about don't have to worry about erasing on a computer, but
I am addicted to Facebook Lives now. That's right.
Yeah,
yes.
That's
like Dr. Will, I love like meeting people all over the place, you know, just getting outside. And honestly, I have more friends online than I do in real life in the area near me. So,
well,
so yeah, whatever.
Okay. I'm glad
Aaron. Hey, Aaron.
Oh, is it? I was going to say Jen Led, but I wasn't sure. But I mean, we met through online and EduMatch and everything. I mean, all of us, and then getting to meet in physical spaces for real. You and I almost said Nebraska. Wow, no, Nashville. Before everything happened, and getting to actually see you, but I already felt like I knew you for so long, and same with Dr. Will too. So it's so funny. Aaron is a Facebook user.
Yes. Dr. Will, what was the last cool thing that you did before you had to hunker down for COVID? Or the last cool place you visited?
Wow.
I didn't prep you for this.
Yeah. I don't know. It's probably maybe the mall. I mean, the wife and I were, we were planning on going to New Orleans for spring break. And then the virus, we're like, yeah, we won't be going to New Orleans for spring break. But yeah, that was pretty much it. And we've hunkered down wherever. I'm in Mississippi, land of hot August and sweet tea. I mean, I was sweating so much the other day. I was like, my gosh, there's a reconstruction. It's killing me out there. So no, I think we were so happy, and it was crazy.
I'm sorry.
We're so happy to go. We bought a dishwasher about three weeks ago. We were so happy just to get out the house to go buy a dishwasher.
Yes.
Because we had just been in the house all the time and only going to work and home and everything else being delivered. And the fact that we were out, we were like, oh my gosh, it kind of felt good to be out with it.
Yes.
They had the mask and stuff on and stuff, but still it was sort of like, it's out. Felt good. It felt good.
Oh my gosh.
I know. My husband and I, we just drive around. We get a babysitter like tonight, and we just drive around all over the place. We listen to music and we like talk without like kids, kicking each other and screaming in the back of the car. I mean, that to us is out. And then like we'll go shopping together. It's crazy, just how this has really changed how we view just getting out. And Rachelle wants to go to Nashville so bad, and I just want to go to Vegas. I'm going to turn 40 and I can't go to Vegas. I'm so sad. I'm heartbroken. But before we go, we've kind of gone over time. Did you see this comment? Dr. Will is so cool wherever he is. Did you see that, Dr. Will?
Hey, is that the Aaron person?
I think it's Aaron. Yes.
Yeah.
Aaron who?
Aaron Kiger. Yeah. Yeah, this is part of our EduMatch family.
Yeah. No, you'll know.
We'll be boxing you. Okay. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Before we go, are there any last words that you want to tell the world before we leave here?
Just be good to yourself. Try to live a life that you don't need a vacation from, and understand that as much as you love yourself and your students and your school district, you are a business of one, and do not be afraid to go somewhere else.
Oh, I love that. I'm glad that I can replay that. Live a life that you don't feel like you have to take a vacation from. Yeah. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Rachelle, is there anything that you want to say before we leave?
Besides, I want to go to Nashville with you. But that was the last place that I went before everything. Yeah, that was, it's so strange. I actually talked to somebody the other day who his wife is expecting any day. And I think they found out that she was pregnant right before Christmas. And so just thinking, whenever I heard that, I thought, wow, just all that has happened since, that time, that just feels like forever ago. But yeah, no, I hope Dr. Will gave good advice. I need to follow that advice. And I would like to say that on this 3-day weekend that I'm fortunate to have, that I'm looking forward to it, to catch up on some different work and projects that kind of fell, away with this week back to school, because it's been exhausting. It's a lot. So teachers, parents, students, everybody, administrators, everywhere, there's a lot going on, and it is not easy. So I do hope that people do break away and take Dr. Will's advice, or Melody's, who tells me you have to go out and live your life. And I'm going to try and do that too for a little bit.
Yeah.
I hope you do. Dr. Will has called you the hardest working woman in education.
I know, you said that the other
take
day.
a break.
She is. She got like 90 jobs. 90 jobs.
But
She does. And Aaron,
Yes.
Aaron, I'm sorry to know you by your name. I just know you by your Twitter handle.
Yeah, that's usually.
It's all good. Thank you all so much for joining in. I just want to put this up. Live a life you don't feel like you have to take a vacation from. I love that so much. Thank you for dropping. That's probably my favorite part of what you have said today. Although everything was good, but that just really hit me hard. So I hope that everybody will take that to heart. We will definitely see you on Monday, right, Rachelle? Even though it's Labor Day, are we still going to go live?
Oh.
Okay.
You know what? I thought, I was thinking that we weren't, because I'm totally, we could chat. That's fine. We can totally pop in and just do a check-in. I'm good with whatever. So it'll be a surprise, but we do have our guests for next Friday and the following Monday, which is awesome. So, maybe we will pop in on Monday.
Or maybe we won't.
We'll talk about erasing boards. It won't be about erasing boards. Everybody bring your dry erase board. We'll practice handwriting.
Oh my gosh,
no kidding.
This is a good challenge. That's a good challenge. We'll have to start. We'll make a hashtag and everything. Everybody, thank you so much for joining in. We hope you have a great long weekend. Take care of yourself. Like Dr. Will said, live a life that you don't have to take a vacation from, because you are probably stuck at home anyway. So, but we think you're awesome. Thank you for joining us, and have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
And thank you, Dr. Will, for coming on.